All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to One American's Perspective. Tonight, I have a friend of mine, JC Verde, on the show. JC and I served together in England. He's a former pararescueman and EMT. He owns his own company in Tampa, Florida right now, Defeat X, which is an outdoor adventure and sporting company designed to get people active in their lifestyles and to help them live a better life. Back in August, so just a few months ago, he was filming a instructional video outside of Tampa in a lake there that I won't even try to pronounce the name of. And he was, fortunately or unfortunately enough, filming with a drone that day, and on camera he caught what ended up being an alligator attack. He caught it in full view, full shot of the drone. Pretty impressive and incredible footage. A few months ago, I was watching just a local story on the news, local news, and I heard about this. And then when they started interviewing you, JC, it's like, I think I know that guy. You know, your jaw was wired shut and your head was shaved. I was like,
Yeah.
He looks really familiar. And then they flashed your name on the screen. And I was like, I definitely know that guy. So I wanted to reach out after hearing a little bit of your testimony and the story, which is just incredible, and hopefully have you on the show to share some of the wisdom that you had prior to going into it, which I think you'll talk a little bit about, led to your mindset leading up to it and your just will to survive, and then what you've gleaned since then. So welcome to the show, JC. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, dude, my pleasure. Thanks for reaching out. It was one of those things in where I immediately saw the name and the last name, and I was like, I know that last name, or I know. And yeah, dude, it was awesome. Thanks for reaching out, and hopefully it'll be an entertaining conversation.
Okay, so what I'll end up doing is putting one of the links to local news stories below so people can see the drone footage. But in your own words, can you just tell us about the attack and what happened that day?
Yeah, man. So you nailed it. It was an instructional video. It was for a race that we were going to put up. We got our hands on a really beautiful venue, which is going to be somewhat of a large asset for the company. And so I knew that I needed to take advantage of this. Man, I'm sorry. I'm trying to not share screen. I'm trying to get this to come up. I'm so sorry. There we go. So,
Okay.
So I've never swum in that body of water before, but I've kayaked, and I knew that there was animal life. But like in Florida, dude, I mean, you're raised in here. There's always something anywhere. So
Yep.
my main concern was actually not animals. It was more like humans. Humans suck with boats, and they don't necessarily look for somebody that's swimming. That's kind of like the last thing that they're worried about, right?
Right.
So the instructional video was based on I was doing the main reason for the actual instructional video was because it's a new concept. I don't know if many of your viewers or listeners won't maybe they'll know something about triathlon, but this was a multi-stage transitional type race. So it's more like a game, and it is a sport, which makes it way more fun. In the venue, it's just going to be awesome, and I can't wait to actually throw it in the near future. But I knew that there was a necessity for instructions. Just like you play Monopoly, you play whatever other game. It's better not to just explain it to you, but more like let me just show you type thing.
Okay.
So that's exactly what I was doing. And the other reason that you mentioned that obviously it was recorded on a drone, but the issue with the drone footage was that my buddy the friend, he's a good guy. I guess I didn't know him before this incident or day. I believe that the SD card wasn't formatted correctly. So that's why there's all sorts of different snippets of 40 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 4 seconds. And that 4-second video is actually one of the coolest ones. But what happened that day was just me swimming directly into an angry, mean little dinosaur, dude. Just was not having me being in the area, and wanted to show me who's boss. But
I haven't seen the video. I
luckily,
don't know if you really swam into you or it swam into you, or you swam into it or it swam into you. It looked like it was beelining right for you.
Yeah, I know, totally right. But I was swimming also. So
Mhm.
I guess if you wanna record the conversation of a brave PJ going towards this dinosaur because he knew he was gonna kill
No,
it.
it was definitely you didn't had no idea it was coming. It knew
No,
you
no,
were coming.
no, dude, no
It knew
clue.
where it was
No
going.
clue. Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say that too, because obviously in the video that I sent to you when I spoke to the
Mhm.
crocodile conflict expert, what a fun job description.
Mhm.
uh, he described the collision and the actual attack.
Mhm.
So I actually got, I guess you could say, punched twice. One with its snout, and the other one with its
Mhm.
jaws. And I guess the one that actually did the most amount of internal damage was actually the snout, because we were obviously colliding at a high
Mhm.
rate of speed. Probably say, I don't know, I haven't done the actual formula in yards per minute or whatever versus like what it was going, but let's just say like, I don't know, 5 to 6 miles per hour collision straight ahead
Mhm.
with dinosaur. Yeah.
Yeah, with the dinosaur's face. So he was swimming right at you, or she was swimming right at you. I think some of the background story was the thought it might have been a mom who was protecting her domain of a nest that might have been in an area. Is that right?
Yeah. So I love the video for multiple reasons, and the main one is because in the channel of talking about truths,
Mhm.
because I know that's kind of like what your whole inspiration behind your podcast, and I was really wanting to figure out 100% truth, like you know what I
Mhm.
mean, like
You're right.
was it a supernatural power that overcame me and I broke its neck and the hero
Mhm.
flew away after?
Mhm.
Or is it something like I followed easy instructions such as open its mouth, and because of the actual motion that occurred, I put the alligator in a state I didn't even know existed.
Mhm.
So the really cool story about all this is that we talk about miracles and the way that they essentially manifest themselves, and sometimes I guess we kind of think of like the Hollywood um, depiction of a miracle, like the departing of the seas. And
Mhm.
I think it's the world is very intricate with its creation and with creator, and everything that is a miracle is a miracle if you give it the adequate uh, designation, I guess.
Mhm.
So as soon as I go into this little angry mother, I guess to answer your question, the reason that we think it's an angry mother was because the incident happened on August 3rd, right?
Mhm.
And on August 15th, um, alligator season opened up.
Mhm.
And obviously the video had been everywhere, right? And for
Mhm.
people that hear Lake Donosasa, that's how you say it, by the way.
Okay. Glad I
They're
didn't
gonna
try.
be like, yeah, yeah, dude, saying it is one thing, but spelling it, just don't even,
Mhm.
just pay TOSA, Sasa, whatever.
Mhm.
But when I when I saw the video, sorry, dude, I lost my train of thought. When after the attack and the dude, I completely forgot what I was talking about. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I
You're talking
noticed
about
actually
the. Go ahead.
what I noticed is that when as soon as I take my antibiotics, and this is something that I've kind of preached for a long time, and obviously, I mean, anybody that does anything with nutrition, it's like anything that you put in your body, it just kind of changes your chemistry. But dude,
Mhm.
getting an entire bag of this crap, like going into my gut, it like
Mhm.
changes my like I think like temporarily, like I'm not myself. Like I'm
Mhm.
just kind of like woozy and kind of like figuring things out, and I get really thirsty, and dude, this junk is gonna be over soon. But okay, yeah. So August 15th was when Gator season opened up, and the neighbor knew of the video. A lot of people knew of the video, so he knew of the dock because it is his neighborhood's dock, his public
Mhm.
dock.
Mhm.
So he went there with a tag, And the reason that we think it's that alligator specifically is because it was in that area. And it's very unlikely for something that large to share its territory with anything
With another large
else.
animal. Yeah.
Right. So that's not 100% true. Like the picture that I
So this
showed you
guy
hanging.
killed an alligator at the dock and used the tag.
Correct.
So like a revenge kill. What did he do with the gator?
Dude, I mean, they hunt it, so more than likely he ate it. I
Okay.
haven't got the opportunity to go back. The only reason that I would go back and see if I can talk to this man, not that I really cared that it was killed or whatever. Like, sure, like I want his head, but it's just like another trophy of something. But I didn't kill it, so you can keep
Right.
it. Um, the the main reason that I would go over there is because I would get a chance to talk to the family that helped me out. The
Okay.
family in the Did you get a chance to read the story?
Yeah. Yep.
So dude, the stories, the family is so awesome. I kind of want to take them out and get some dinner, and then while maybe we're around their house, we can maybe meet the neighbor, and I can ask him a couple questions to figure out if it was for
Hmm.
sure a male or if it was a female.
Hmm.
The reason that I think it's a female, there's one reason that I think it's a female, and that would be kind of an extraordinary story because females actually don't get that large. It
Hmm.
actually makes it even more
Oh,
miraculous,
okay.
but it's more realistic if it was a male because of its size, because
Hmm.
males actually usually get that long. If it's a female, it's
Yeah.
un an unusually large female,
Yeah.
like
I know you were
by a lot.
talking in the interview you did with the crocodilian expert. I suppose there was discussion about how large it might have been. And initial reports were something like it was 12 feet, right? And his thought was that it probably wasn't that big. It was probably some smaller. And he kind of gave you some tips on how to determine its size. So did you guys ever come to a realistic?
Yeah, so it's so funny, dude, just because it's one of those stories where people care about the amount of teeth and the length of the alligator.
Well, yeah,
But
that's
what?
what we
No, no, no.
know.
I know totally, 100%. Like I'm not mad at it. Like I get it.
Yeah.
But the initial 12 feet came from one of the first people that saw the video.
Hmm.
They were like, dude, that thing's like, it's like one of those things that they see is like, dude, that thing has
It's
to
a
be
big
about 12
gator.
feet,
It's not
something
a
like
baby
that, right?
gator.
So when we wrote it, we're like, dude, just put 12 feet. I don't care if it makes a difference. And it's interesting because Flavio, so basically, if it's a female,
Mhm.
the I don't know if well, you did hear it, but I got the sense in what he was explaining to me that he's dealt with alligators a lot, like a long time.
Mhm.
In the few times that he has been legitimately afraid, like he deals with them. It's like one of those things that were like, if you know how to handle them, you're good. But the
Mhm.
one time that he's been legitimately like afraid for his life is with a mama gator that's taking care of its little nest.
Mhm.
Like he says, you don't fuck with that.
Yeah.
And he was he was kind of cool with me until he like heard about the nest. He was like, mhm. So if it is a female, the way that he described to me is like when I was swimming, as soon as I came close to the gator, I was in mid stroke. So I went with my right hand, which actually,
Mhm.
dude, my wife is here. She could actually help me disconnect this stupid thing. But sorry. So if I go with my right hand,
Mhm.
if I'm swimming, you see my scar on my face. Pretty.
Yep.
Sorry, I got really close. Right. It's all the
Yep.
way up and a bunch more over here. But there's also one on my chest. I had a couple sutures there. It just opened the skin and they just sutured it up.
Mhm.
And this one doesn't make sense looking at it. It looks like, so did he bite you twice or she bite you twice? Like, what's the deal with that? Well,
Mhm.
if I actually explain, if I go like this into the stroke, you'll notice that the line
Mhm.
goes directly with my cut. So
Okay.
that's one of the things of kind of like searching for the full truth and what happened.
Mhm.
I needed to make everything kind of line up.
Yeah.
So the size of the alligator, he told me to determine it by the length of my stroke. So
Mhm.
basically, if you saw me in the video with my right hand, I can pretty much measure from my elbow up to the tips of my fingers. And I measured about 17 inches. Uh, That's cubit feet. That's how they
Mhm.
measure in the Bible.
Mhm.
That actual measurement right there, which is pretty interesting.
Mhm.
So the size of the alligator is interesting because if I do that, uh, it's too large. It's way too big. It's it doesn't seem right. So I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I don't know if
With your
I'm like
math.
doing the
Well, what did
calculations
it come
wrong.
out
Yeah,
to be?
it was coming out to be like 15 feet or 16 feet, and that's
Yeah.
like no.
Yeah, that guy would have like made the news just when he caught that thing.
Yeah, yeah,
If it was
100%. Yeah, yeah.
if it
Well,
was
the thing is, so this is another thing. Dude, sorry, I'm like all over the place. The other thing that he said is that if that is the case, he basically
Mhm.
said he didn't catch the right gator.
Mhm.
So he came up to that conclusion later. It's like that gator's still out there, dude. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, if it is, then
Okay.
cool, he got away. Hold on one
Okay.
second, dude.
Yep.
I just noticed that my computer's low on battery, dude. I'm so
So
sorry.
you were swimming along and an unknown gator or an unknown size gator beelined
Yeah.
it straight for you. So really my understanding was that like uh more than likely it was a territorial aggressive maneuver on the behalf of this
Yeah.
gator because you were swimming in its territory, whether because it was a woman or a female gator who didn't like that you were
Pronouns,
around
dude.
a
Pronouns.
potential nest. Yeah. And she didn't like you being around her nest. So it was a protective mother movement, or it was an aggressive male who saw something uh, large enough to pose a threat. So he went to check it out to investigate or to deter you. Is that pretty much kind of what are most likely scenarios there?
Correct. So those are the two options. And what
Okay.
was so interesting is that in one of those, sharing the video and sharing with pictures with like family at the time,
Mhm.
I got connected with Flavio, and I thought I sent him everything. Actually, I sent him a shorter version of the video that doesn't show anything. So it was
Mhm.
useless. He was just like, dude, I think I can help you with like the trauma, but I had to actually present the whole video. And then when I spoke to him a few days ago and I had it
Okay.
on the podcast,
Okay.
uh, he was explaining that maneuver because remember crocodile conflict. So he talks and explains and gathers information both
Mhm.
psychologically and physically from the animal and the human involved. They were like, well, what did this idiot do? Or what was this thing protecting?
Mhm.
So that's kind of like why it was so awesome that I connected with him because
Mhm.
um dude, I'm such a female, bro. I'm just getting like cold.
Well, you
Bro,
just had
don't
a bunch of
don't take
cold liquids
don't yeah,
pumped
that
into your body.
don't take IV antibiotics, dude. And if you do, warm them up.
Well, I will try
And
not
then
to get bit by a gator and make that necessary.
yeah,
So the
or you could do that. Yeah, you could do that
so
for sure.
the
Yeah.
gator essentially bumps you, it sounds like, with his snout, which causes a lot of like concussive damage, and then bites. Is that kind of what happened with your arm and the stroke at the same time as
Yeah.
your head? So
Yeah.
you got the damage from essentially a gator snout, and then it
Yeah. Let
bit
me show you.
down, and that's where you got the go. Please go for it.
Yeah. Let me take my hat off so I can kind of show you a little better.
Okay.
Can't so you can hear me fine, right?
I got you. Yeah.
So I can't hear you, but so you can see that I have a little C situation right here, right?
Hmm.
So I can share it with you with the X-ray and maybe you can edit the video. But
Hmm.
so it bumped me like this, and actually kind
Hmm.
of luckily too, because I think that if I wasn't guarding or if I didn't maneuver my face slightly to even dude, look at it. Slightly
Hmm.
to the left or slightly to the right would have taken my ear off, would have taken my eye.
Hmm.
There's just so many ways that that could have occurred. To include, dude, to include, there was another video that I haven't shared that was of me swimming like maybe 20 yards before the collision occurred.
Hmm.
It was of me stopping at floating vegetation, and the floating vegetation was large. It was mean, you see sometimes floating vegetation in lakes in Florida.
Mhm.
I swim in lakes all the time. And and it's not an unusual occurrence, but this large, it's like that's unusual.
Mhm.
So I went by and I'm like, the video captures this. It captured me just kind of holding on for a second. I'm like, well, dude, the drone's up there. I gotta go the whole way. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna go the whole way. So
Your
I
ego
went.
gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, probably 100%. Well, you can think of it that way, right? Or
Mhm.
the gentleman brought this up when I told him if I would have turned around right there, if I would have turned around right at that 10-second mark,
Right.
that alligator would still came for me.
You
And
think
if
so?
and
Okay.
if it did, it would have actually got my leg
Yeah.
or my arm or my abdomen or something else besides potentially the less meatiest part of my
Mhm.
body, which is my head. Don't have
Yeah.
any fat, don't have any real muscle, just skull,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So so yeah, that was kind of a gnarly thing to watch. And then so the not the diagnosis, not the prognosis, but I guess just kind of like in his evaluation,
Mhm.
he mentioned that the, the probability of it being a female after watching the 3 videos consecutively is pretty
Mhm.
high because
Okay.
of the way that it was acting, like how
Mm.
aggressive it was swimming towards me. In addition, when the third video was shown of me when I was out of the dock walking towards the stairs, he pointed out something which I stopped the podcast before this because like I wanted to be courteous to his time and also, dude, I had something else to do and I just kind of wanted it to kind of cut at the right moment.
Mhm.
And so after the podcast was done, I went to the bathroom. Oh, that's why, dude. I had to piss so bad.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and I left him the video. And when I came back, dude, he zooms in a shot and he's like, dude, look at this. And it's the alligator right underneath me from when I was at the when I was on the dock. It literally like you have to zoom in and you have to know what you're looking for because it
Mhm.
looks like waves, but he says if the gator was upset and angry and just waiting for you, that's the motion that it would do. For me, it just kind of looked like some kind
Is
of
this when you were
lightning
getting in the water or getting out?
getting out. So
Okay.
so what happened was the attack, the bump, the bite. I look up, I get my sighting. I remember the message
Well,
said
a
something
fight
like,
ensues, right? At this point, like, and I don't want to skip over that for people who probably haven't heard this story. So the gator bites you, and this is where you kind of you shared this in your interview. Like you started essentially fighting immediately. Like you had a job to do. Can you talk about that?
yeah, dude, for sure. Um, when it happened, it was like I had hit a large wall, like a brick wall. I explained it to Flavio. It was more like I used to do high school track, and I was
Hmm.
hanging out with my buddy, having a conversation with him as we were running, probably like a 9-minute mile pace to warm up or something faster. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I smashed my face against the telephone pole, like
Hmm.
one of those embarrassing moments that you kind of look around to see if anybody looked at you, and that's how it felt. That's that
Okay.
type of impact of a giant
Mm.
telephone pole. So immediately I kind of just received this message, this very clear message of and it went something like um you're inside of an alligator, open its mouth, get out of the water, you're going to be okay.
Mm.
So so I just got to work, dude. It's like one of those things that you know your situation and
Mhm.
you know also that freaking out really is not going to do anything, you
Right.
know? Like it's only going to make it worse. So, how about we just focus on the job at hand and
Yeah.
open this freaking thing's mouth. Now, obviously, I'm not the strongest man in the world.
Hmm.
Um, the world's strongest, or maybe I am, dude. Maybe I just didn't know it this whole time, dude. Maybe I just
Hmm.
need to go to a competition, and as long as I'm doing one of these, dude, I'll win some
Yeah.
awards or something.
Hmm.
But very
Well,
doubtful.
well, I
But
wonder.
the
So
thing,
you're saying you're opening your mouth. I wonder. you know, because I've heard that too, like it's almost impossible to open it up. But I guarantee you that alligator had probably never had something with hands attempt to pry, and it was probably like, what the heck is that? Like you probably shocked it by like,
Yeah.
what, no fish or turtle's
So
ever done this.
totally, 100%. So that was my initial thought,
Mhm.
rational thought. Like it wasn't like grabbing me with like whatever force, and then I was
Mhm.
just kind of like, get me the hell out of here, like do this.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's what I initially thought, that I just freaked it out and it let me go. But if you watch the video really
Mhm.
closely, you'll notice that there's a turn. And that's what people always like, some
The death
newscasters like,
roll.
oh, you got into death roll and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I think that I've seen death rolls.
Mhm.
I would have felt that shit.
Yeah.
I think I would have felt my entire body just be like completely manipulated one way.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, well, let's put me opening its mouth here on this corner. Let's save that for later. And let's talk about the reality of that actually happening.
Mhm.
But now let's talk about me potentially turning it instead of turning me. Because I remember telling somebody, it was like, dude, I don't think it turned me. I think I turned it. But I
Mhm.
also know how that sounds. Like, what do you mean you turned something that weighs 5 to 8 times more than you? Like, how does that work? Well, um, talking to Flavio, he explained to me the concept of tonic immobility in alligators, which I had no
Mhm.
idea was a thing. I've heard of tonic immobility, and maybe some of your listeners have heard of it. It was the first time I've heard about it was with great white sharks. When you turn an animal into a certain degree and then have it on its back, and where it just becomes completely immobile. It doesn't know where
Mhm.
it is. Its
In a
eyes are like all
trance.
like, yeah, in a trance, exactly. Well, I didn't know that's what I was going to do, but the reason that I continued explaining this to Flavio was because with the natural swim stroke of you placing your right hand above your head and then pushing water down to propel you forward, I
Mhm.
met the alligator firsthand, and then I felt scales and then teeth, and then real quick I just kind of realized where I was in, what I needed to do.
Mhm.
Show you the best. So I'm going here and I'm pushing down. I feeling scales, feeling teeth. I go into the bottom jaw, and then
You
just
cup
natural,
underneath it.
not underneath it. It was more like most of my hands are here, and
Mhm.
the swimming motion
Okay.
is this. I'm literally
Yep.
doing this
Yep. To push the
continuously while
water
I'm
down, right?
swimming. So it came very natural. So I come in, get out of here. I do this, but this one is coming almost like muscle memory, coming already above my head to do the same. Well, I realize what I'm at. So this is really fast. This is done in like less than a second, I think.
Mhm.
So maybe if you're gonna chuck off any amazing attributes that I may have, maybe more of like an incredible reaction time. That's probably the
Mhm.
only thing that I kind of had there. Because strength was maybe not one of them, and he kind of explained this a little bit more, in where I placed my hand at the bottom, and then this one
Mhm.
immediately went on the top. So if
Okay.
you think about it, like I'm inside. I don't have an alligator head here to show me, but
But
in
you're
the podcast that
flipping,
I
flipping the
yeah,
jaw. You're
exactly.
pushing
So
and pulling.
basically,
Yeah.
when once I get here, I'm like, dude, I'm opening this fucking thing.
Mhm.
So I'm just annoyed and with everything that I can. And actually, I mean, going through Indoc and going through dev course and through the pipeline, we spend a lot of time in the water. So
Mhm.
spending a lot of time in the water, we tread a lot. And then after actually leaving the military, I went into endurance sports. I did, Ironmans. I was invited to go to the World Championship, and then I coach. And then I'm 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 in the water all the time. I'm pretty confident in the water, and I have a pretty strong kick as well. So maybe that all helped line me up, kind of getting a really quick motion into what I wanted to do. But he also told me that as you turn a large animal like this one, it doesn't you don't have to put it completely on its back. He explained to me that it was a lot like a propeller. You know, like you start a manual propeller, all you have to do is kind of do a little bit of crank and then it goes all the way again.
Hmm.
That's what he explained to me, that that is exactly how those alligators function. And where if you try to even place them in a certain level, they will actually turn almost naturally. And also, as they go into this level, they go into that state of tonic immobility. Now, he says that it kind of ranges for different animals, but it's usually like right, almost like as soon as you turn it, just because it's not used to ever doing that
Mm.
by somebody else's hands. Like they
Right.
do it because they do the death roll. They grab it and then they put their legs and their limbs
Hmm.
inside and then they just roll. Obviously, because if they left their paws or their
They'd rip those
whatever
off. Yeah.
claws, they're unable to turn because obviously this stops them. So, so yeah, dude, that's kind of what I did
So you put this
because
thing
you
in a
know we
trance.
remember because yeah. You remember we learned this in alligator wrestling school, remember?
I mean, they would have you believe after Endoc that you could jump into the water and wrestle a gator, but that was just
That's
bravado.
true, yeah.
I don't think that was real. In your
Yeah,
case, it was
yeah, yeah.
real.
Yeah, dude, they might put this in the Air Force promotional videos, dude. It'd be
They
just like,
should.
so
They
in
should
PJs, we learned to
fight alligators. So you
alligators.
basically put this thing in a trance, which I'm guessing at this point it lets you go because now it's like hypnotized. And then at that point, you start swimming back to the dock. Yeah. How far are you from the dock?
So it's not back to the dock because I didn't start at that dock. You have to remember that I started
Okay.
about 250 meters, we'll say south of where I was. Then I
Okay.
was heading north, and then I needed to go further. I needed to do like a northwest, do this, and
Hmm.
then come back. So this is
Okay.
kind of the halfway. So the entire thing was 500 meters. You like my hand gestures? You
Yeah.
like
Very
the
good.
magic fingers I got?
Yep.
So right here is about 250 meters. So that's kind of where I got attacked. The whole
Okay.
plan was to well, not the whole plan, what I needed to do was to get out of this bastard's mouth and
Mhm.
then swim towards the dock, which is I think is probably around, I think maybe like 10 meters, maybe like half a pool length.
Okay.
And then yeah, about that. So so I started swimming a little faster to get out of there.
Yeah.
Before
Imagine.
I was kind of saving my energy because it had been like a month and a half since I'd been in a
Yeah.
body of
Well,
water
you're
or swimming at
training.
all.
It's not a life or death situation, and now it literally, in every sense the word is. You know,
Yeah,
you.
yeah, 100%. Like I knew that this thing wasn't dead. Like I would usually swim with a buoy that has like a knife in it, just in case,
Mhm.
or put someone on my ankle or something like that, just in case. But this time, dude, I didn't even have goggles or a cap. And the
Mhm.
cap is actually a really cool um, thing about that, which I'll explain to you later if you
Mhm.
want or you have time. But so that's exactly it. And this is kind of like in the world of realizing if there's dumb luck or miracles. I
Mhm.
never leave my house with definitely going to like a swimming event. Like, I think it's pretty easy. Got to remember your cap. You got to remember your goggles. Like
Yep.
there's not that much shit. You know, you're not deploying somewhere and you need 100 things in your bag. Just gonna go
Right.
swim. Well, I literally didn't bring those with me.
Mhm.
And I think that if I would have had the goggles, I would have looked up and I think I would have actually I know I would have seen something abnormal. And if I would have seen something abnormal,
You
I
would have
would have
turned
stopped
around.
swimming. No, I would have actually stopped swimming to figure out to see what it is.
Mhm.
And instead of it hitting me like this, it would have hit me like this.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's that.
Man, let that sink in for a second. So you get to the dock, and this is where Flavio, the crocodile expert, was saying he zoomed in, and as you're like climbing out or trying to get out of the water onto the dock, he sees the gator underneath you. Is that correct?
Something like that. Very, very,
Okay.
very close. So
Okay.
the dock was about 4 feet above the water at the time. And at the time where
Okay.
I was in the water, I was still treading water.
Mhm.
So as I tread water, I think I kicked myself upwards, not
Mhm.
touching the ground or anything, just doing like a mermaid kick. And then I think that when next time that I went there, I saw that there was like a log coming out.
Mhm.
Somehow, dude, I got up. I got
Yeah,
up
all
on the dock.
mangled without a ladder. That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, with a ladder, just I got up there and I remember checking my hands because I was just in his mouth. So it's one of those things that where you're swimming, you don't really feel that pain, but internally you're like, just kind of like one of those things that you have to check off. You figure out like which one is the important thing that you need to figure out.
Yeah, you start
My hands,
self-triaging.
whatever. Yeah, my hands are whatever. So when I got onto the dock, I looked at my hands first. I'm like, oh, not cut up. Then I'm looking around. No bright red blood. I'm like, all right, don't have any arterial bleeding. I'm kind of looking to the side, and what I see is kind of chunks in my face. So I'm like, all right,
Mm.
my face is
Out
pretty
of
screwed
your
up.
peripheral vision, you can see that you're
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, like dude, put like a banana peel on here, and you'll notice how that feels. Just kind of like that's not right.
Not normal.
That's not,
Okay.
yeah, it's abnormal. And then the other thing was my jaw. But before I noticed about my jaw when I was walking, but before that, like when I saw this, I'm kind of doing this, and then I turned, which is really cool, the video, because that video is only 4 seconds. So then I don't know for a fact what happened, but obviously I'm soaked.
Mm.
Obviously, I was just done swimming. And the dock at 2 p.m., super dry. No one else had been there, nothing at all.
Yeah.
So every single wet footprint on that dock is for me, of me, only me.
Mhm.
So you see what explained to a buddy of mine while in the hospital, and I think it's in the part of the story in my website, jointhefeedx.com. I don't know if it's on there, but if it is, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I immediately go from I'm good, but did Matt see what happened? Did the video guy
The
see what
drone
happened to me?
operator. Okay.
The drone, right? Did he see, or if I don't go back the same way, is he does he think that I died? Does he think that I am missing? Like something happened to me? He's gonna
Mm.
freak out and it's this 18-year-old kid that's just getting ready to go to college. Just super good dude. Just like I don't want to put any stressor on this young man, right?
Mhm.
And I'm kind of in tune with psychological traumas just because I've been with that in that realm for most of my adult life. As a EMT and then a paramedic in the civilian world and as a firefighter. And then when I went to pararescue, and then when I came back into the fire department and when I developed my business. So since I've been like 18 years old, I've been a dirt tactician of sorts, and I've been a
Mm.
clinical for humans that a clinician, excuse me, a clinician for people that have been doing or that uh, an individual that shows up on scene at your absolute worst time of your entire life. Like you
Mhm.
calling 911 for the absolute worst shitty situation that you've ever been. So I always see how people um, how things affect them at different stages, right? Beginning when I'm there, and then when I drop them off at the hospital, and then sometimes if they're really bad, when we go back to the hospital and see how they kind of gone along. So I've
Mhm.
seen the absolute worst of humans in their absolute worst days of their lives. And I've been really in tune with that, especially with people that are, in a sense, treating themselves with going outside, riding their bikes, swimming, running, doing exercise, which is a very healthy way to deal with stress. But in the times that I get to talk to these people, you kind of figure out what their darkness is and how they're doing whatever it
Mhm.
is that they need to do in order to shed some light on that darkness. So, so I was very careful on how I can, what I, how this can potentially screw up this kid. So, so you see footsteps on the dock of going to the very edge of it. And then you see these footsteps that are like this, that it literally looks like I did a left face movement, which is kind of embarrassing, dude. But maybe I went into a complete robot stage and where like I am maybe I don't know, I went back to like Indoc. I don't we didn't do many left faces in Indoc, but whatever. So I make the turn and then I noticed that there's no way that Matt saw me. And there was something inside of me that's like, dude, I gotta make sure that this dude is good. So it's in that moment where let's say this is the dock, right? I
Mhm.
get out here,
Mhm.
the exit, the stairs are immediately when I get out this way. like the shortcut, the way for sure to get out, right here, go out, go up the stairs, just like 6 flight of stairs. I don't remember going up the stairs at all. After when I went back with this producing company that's doing a documentary, they actually showed how many steps. There was a lot of stairs. You don't remember going up them.
Mm.
So I was probably concussed and all sorts of things. I don't know. But I went to the edge of that dock to look to see if he could see, to get a better vantage point, because
Mhm.
it was the dock was here, this dock was here. If I went further to this dock, I could have a better vantage point to see if he saw, or if I could see him or call him. There was no way, dude. It's like 300 meters, vegetation,
Yeah,
water. There's just no way. There's no
because
way he saw me.
you got out at a totally different place than you put in the water. So he wasn't expecting you to be at this dock
No, he expected me to come back to
to
go
where you
exactly where
started.
we started.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation, and then
And
we were
he's
going to
not
continue.
watching the drone, or to your knowledge, he's not watching the drone footage live while
No,
he's flying this thing. Yeah.
no, he said actually another incredible thing, why I think that this video is very much necessary in order for me to help whoever it is that I need to help, was because the drone footage actually, the gentleman said that it collapsed in front of him after, because he had some technical difficulties, so he brought it back and then it collapsed in front of him. And then he quickly got it back up in the air, and then after that he didn't see anything. He just
Mhm.
thought he put it in follow format or
Mhm.
whatever. I'm not a very tech savvy dude,
Mhm.
but so you'll see that in some other videos, there's like 35, 40 seconds of me just swimming, like, swimming through the water. And it's kind of gnarly because you don't know when it's going to happen. So you don't know if you're going to see like another very
Mhm.
explicit video, but it's not. They're just all different stages of that video. Some of them are close, some of them, the drone is high, some of
Got
it
it.
is
Because
close,
there
some
was,
of it gets really close to me.
got it.
What was
Okay.
saying?
So
Sorry.
you go up the stairs. So you go up the stairs and you recognize like, oh, nobody knows I'm here. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
go ahead.
so to go back to the dock part, so as I go to check to see if Matt could actually see me,
Mhm.
there was that's when Flavio stopped the video. He stopped it because it had a very clear image of the most that you can see under the dock. So what he was checking for was he was checking for a nest. So he was looking, he was zooming like this, and then he goes, "Oh, look at this." Then he showed me. And as I walked to the edge of the dock to check for Matt, right
Mhm.
at the bottom, right there, well, obviously the video doesn't show me walking, it just shows my wet footprints. But when you look at the bottom, dude, you see the gator that I've never seen it before. I just thought the video was really cool. It showed me kind of like one of the videos that I'm most proud of because uh yeah, sure, I wrestled an alligator and I got out, whatever. But the part that's really cool for me is that, for you and me, like our motto for X amount of years was that others may live. And you kind of
Mhm.
take that seriously. I know I took it extremely seriously. Like I was prepared to die for a Marine's life any day of the week. Period. Die.
Mhm.
That's me. That's what we sign up for. So I kind of carried that along when I got out of the Air Force. And it was really awesome that I actually had a video showing exactly what I thought happened. Like I didn't make it up. It wasn't like,
Right. You
oh
had
man,
concrete proof that.
yeah, like concrete proof that what I thought is reality.
Mhm.
So and that was important to me. That was important. Not necessarily that I needed it. Like it wasn't like something that I was looking, but it was very satisfying when I saw that video. I was like, this is
Mhm.
this is cool.
Because it
This is
also
not me,
validated your thought process, which was like out of sight of your own pain bubble into what your task was, no matter how damaged you were, because you had a mission, you had a task, and you need to
Yeah,
stay on
totally.
task. So it was proof that you did
100%.
what you were trained to do. And I mean, what's more
Yeah.
satisfying than doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing
Yeah,
after all those
right?
hours of dedication and pain you put into making sure
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
prepared for that moment. So there, when you go check, or when he sees the footprints, there's a gator, the gator is sitting right there, or the suspected gator. You got to, protect the rights of the gator. We don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
incorrectly accuse the
No,
gator of an attack.
yeah, we want to use the right pronouns for whatever the alligator wants to go for. And I'm very sorry for all the alligator people out there. Um,
Mhm.
so they them Zerzi alligator was underneath the the dock. He saw the movement, and he also sees the snout. And then when he opens it up larger, I'm like, oh wow, that's incredible that that was caught on the drone footage. It was like a little another farewell from the alligator that I didn't even know was there completely.
Mhm.
Um,
And how
so
long
after that,
between that from when you were actually there? It couldn't have been long if in the heat of the day the wet footprints were still there. So how long was the drone overhead the dock after you had left the dock?
so I think that it must have been an additional, so 20-second clip shows at the end of me swimming approximately, let's say 5 yards, and then the video cuts off. So if we align it being about 20 yards, I'm 15 yards of non-footage
Mhm.
that it showed, right? So let's say 15 yards, let's say it takes me 10 seconds, probably
Mhm.
less because I was swimming rather quickly. So I get there, let's say 10 seconds, and I get out of the dock. Let's add another 5 seconds to that. And I look at my hands, then I walk over here, then I walk back, and then walk
Go
to
up
the
the stairs.
stairs slowly. Because you can see in the video, I'm walking very purposefully. I'm not
Mhm.
freaking out. I'm not
Not
running.
rushing.
I'm not slipping. I'm just in the zone, walking slowly. Because as we know, we obviously have to relax. Like I get
You
it, it's a
slow
big
down on the
thing.
things.
But
Yeah.
all I'm gonna do is if I am bleeding, make it worse. Or the pain, just all I was doing is just praying to not pass out. It's like,
Hmm.
all right, God, don't let me pass
Keep me
out because no
conscious.
one's
Yeah.
gonna find me. Because no one's
Right
gonna
on.
find me.
Yeah.
Once again, dude, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm just gonna do this. So if you kind of align that time, let's say about 30 seconds, no longer than a minute, no longer than a minute. So the wet footprints, you can see some of them are much wetter than others. And
Hmm.
that's because how I explained when I got out, checked for my hands. So anytime that you're in a very dry, like you get out of a pool and it's dry, you'll notice that the wetter footprints are the ones that you spent more time on.
Yep.
So that's exactly the truth right there, dude. It's almost like
Okay.
I told them the story and then I'm looking at the footprints. I'm like, yeah, I was literally like a total native, and where you'll notice like you follow the deer tracks. Oh, he spent more time here. I smell him going through here. I was totally doing that. And it was just common sense.
So a
That's what
minute
it was like.
later, no more than a minute later, the gator is at the edge of the dock where you were just standing,
Yeah,
potentially at where the area where the nest might have been.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that tells him that if it
Flavio, the
followed
expert,
me.
it was
Yeah,
probably a
Flavio
mother.
was like, "Yeah, dude, this was an absolutely angry mother.
Hmm.
It wasn't just checking on you. It wasn't doing anything. It was you, what it looks like from his perspective. And to go into his perspective, he's done this for probably
He's an expert.
as long as we served, if not longer.
He's an expert.
And so he knows his stuff. So
Hmm.
which is so awesome that I connected with him. People think of alligator experts and they think of Bob in the back that feeds alligators,
Hmm.
but no, this dude's a professional. He's a very well-rounded, and like I said, he deals with the psychology and of
Hmm.
both the animal and the human. So he kind
Right.
of knows what the things do. Plus, he's actually gotten bitten a couple of times.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
you go up the stairs because you realize, well, I got to walk out of here. And then where do you go to next? How far is that? How long does that take you?
So the reason I know this is because there's like a documentary that's coming out,
Hmm.
and we went there, and I guess they kind of like measured. It was about, so from the dock to where I met the little girl that assisted me to
Hmm.
find her mom to help me out, to drive me to the initial place where we
Hospital.
started. It was about 300 meters, about a 300-meter walk, give or take. And I don't remember that walk. It
Mm.
was more like, what's really cool about that was I know that you can't show, or maybe you can edit it later, and um, which I wanted to do this, but my video editing is terrible. Maybe I can get somebody to help me out with that. There's a house to the right, and there's a house to the left. Now, a rational, frantic human being would be like, I'm going to the closest. anything. You know what I mean? Like I gotta let somebody know. But in this mission that I was on, there was just a clear message of going forward. No need to go right, no need to go left, go straight.
Pass up the homes.
I've never been anywhere,
Mhm.
never been in this place ever. I have no idea where I'm at. And also I don't even remember it. Like I don't remember like going back to it. We passed the gazebo, we went down the stairs. I'm like, yeah, sorry guys, I don't remember any of this. I have no idea. And we know that this is where it went because as I go straight from the dock up the stairs, across the playground, past the gazebo, up to the gate, there's a house at the very end. And and I noticed it because it's the house of the people that I met, the ones that helped me out. An open window, and a little girl saw that a man, a strange man, was coming essentially through her backyard. It's not really her backyard. It is the dock, the neighborhood dock that through a see-through fence, it's their backyard. So they're like the house that's closest, not closest to the dock, because there's houses that are closer territory wise, but their house has like direct view at the dock. So the little girl sees it, or the guy, I can't remember. Either way, both of them come up. So I walk about, let's say 250 meters. I get to a gate. Now, when you are at a park and you're calm, you're able to glance and look to see where the door is because the door usually looks a lot like the rest of the fence, right? The only reason that you know where a door is because you usually came in through it, right? Well, I didn't come in through this door, right? I swam to the dock and went to it. So there's no reason at my state to know exactly where that gate is. There's no reason. I would have just kind of looked around. I would have figured out like where the hell is it? I would have been frantic. And I don't remember any of this. And all I remember is just looking down at the floor. I don't remember any of this. But I go directly to the fence. And for some reason I kind of like I go behind it and I know it's one of those T levers. Those T lever
That lifts up
where you
down.
kind of have to mess with this one in order for it to finally come up. And this lock was really rusty. It's like one of those things in where the kids tell me later that um, you have to know that door in order to actually open it. Well, I'm kind of playing with it, and I know what I have to do. It's like one of those ones that are stuck, so you kind of have to play with it in order for it to open. The kind. And so that's what I was doing, and I was hearing that squeaking noise, and then all of a sudden I see a girl. And I could tell you the rest of the story, but I think it's the reason that I guess I'm trying to get people to go to the website and read it for myself is because I'm not going to explain it as beautifully as my buddy wrote it. And my buddy actually has perspective from the people that helped me, and then Matt.
So more
and then
well-rounded.
It's way more well-rounded.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of what happened in a short synopsis of it. Yeah.
Okay, so from the first person perspective, you get through this gate, you go into the backyard, this little girl grabs her family. They come out, they see obviously that there's a mangled stranger in our yard. And they put you in a car, take you back to where you left your vehicle to meet up with Matt, and then drive to the hospital. Is that right?
Yeah, there was, like I said, there's more details to that.
Okay.
But in a sense, yeah, that's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to I asked them to bring me to the venue. They immediately know where the venue is because it's a pretty beautiful venue around where it started. So they know where it is. And they asked me if I should call 911. I'm like, yeah, I don't have a phone, so please call. And it's one of these things in where I usually hear of people calling 911. I've heard different dispatches being called out. And usually when I get the notes, they're just a bunch of nonsense. Like when I get there, it's like completely different, right? That's because they're in a frantic state. So they're saying, blah, 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 he's bleeding, come, something like that, right? So I'm like, well, please let me use your phone. I kind of called somewhat of a trauma alert on myself because I knew the puncture wounds in my head, and I knew that I needed definitely trauma care center criteria. I just didn't know what was going on in my head. I just knew that I was bit and the force. Like I need to go to a trauma 1 center. And for me, that was Tampa General. And that was
Mhm.
actually one of the furthest because there was like 3 close hospitals that I could have gone to. But I told dispatch to meet me at the venue because that's where I was going. So I said, meet me there. So we drove. And there's a situation with a fence, which was interesting. And then they drove. Grass got pretty high. So I actually had to get out. So I walked to find him, finally found him. Healed
Him being the EMT paramedic or
Matt,
Matt? Okay, Matt.
Matt,
Okay.
Matt, the drone operator.
Okay.
So once I see him, he sees it's like I was actually looking for an aid kit in my
Mhm.
car. I explained this in the story that I had just switched my regular car to the team car and I don't have anything there. It's like it literally just got remodeled and there's a bunch of stuff. It looks nice inside, but there's none of my stuff in it.
Mhm.
So Matt runs to get his first aid kit, puts it on. He's kind of a mess. He doesn't really know what to do. Who can blame him? So I'm just like, I put it on myself, not too tight, just to kind of just really to block it from the sun and to
Mhm.
also kind of prevent from additional shit to get inside. It's obviously one
Mhm.
of those things that I need to worry about is infection. Um, still
Mhm.
got the infection, but
Mhm.
but either way, I'm trying to do my best to prevent it from getting worse. So that's exactly what I was doing because I knew that it wasn't a controlled bleeding situation. It was more of a pain management and infection control.
Right.
So yeah, no, he's not. I'm sorry. No, he's
It's
gonna
okay.
show up like at 8 o'clock. I got you. So the as soon as that was I figured out I put that thing on my face. I it's a large truck. It's an old GX 470.
Mhm.
And also not that I wouldn't trust him driving the car because I let anybody drive my car. I don't care. But the area that we were at, we were in lineage with macadamian trees and avocado trees. And the owner of the lot of the land, he's very particular about which way you come out. And I didn't want to mess up the ground, dude. I didn't want to mess up. I knew where to go. And I didn't want to tell Matt like where to go and take longer. I'm like, dude, just get in the car. I'll drive. I'm good. I'm good to drive. So I'm kind of driving with kind of like one hand, and it's kind of like the entire bandage on my face, and I'm
Mhm.
bleeding from my chest, and my skull is crushed. But I could drive for another 300 meters. I've already done everything else. Driving was going to be easy.
Mhm.
But I also had a bunch of equipment. I also had a bunch of really expensive equipment. And for a second, when Matt was coming back to meet me, I was actually putting stuff away in the car. So stupid. I was putting stuff back in the car, and then
You're
when
making
he
sure
got
you're
there, I'm like,
PZ
all right,
clean right there.
yeah, dude, I'm just trying to keep my area clean. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
I didn't want to be disrespectful to the owner of the house. Um, so he gets in the car. We go. I tell him, hey man, just make sure to pick up all the stuff afterward. He was like, yeah, dude, don't worry about it. Just get up. Just go. I'll
Mhm.
get taken care of. And also, I saw that the ambulance had just come through the main gate. So then we went to it, and then yeah, they took me to the hospital.
Man, I'm sure you could talk about the story and all the little details for another couple hours because that is quite a
Yeah.
harrowing experience. And I would recommend anybody who wants to find out more. One, go to your website. Can you say it again?
Is join like join
Mhm.
in joindefeatx.com.
Okay.
And then the handle is JC Defeats. You can look it up on the Instagram or
Awesome.
whatever social
I'll
media.
I'll get links and I'll put them in the comments
Yeah,
too
yeah.
there.
Yeah, no
And
worries.
then the documentary is NBC making it. You said that's going to be coming out.
So yeah, dude, TV is so interesting because you think that one of them has it, but as soon as it's like a big enough story, it's just kind of like the little guy grabs it and then everyone else shares it afterwards. So
Okay.
I'm sure that it's going to be
A
shared and
documentary will
sold.
come
Yeah,
out at some
the
point.
one show I guess that I tried not to be on because of the name, and I've never heard of it before, it's called Heart of Heroes. Like
Mhm.
something to do with like firefighters and a lot to do with national disasters and things like that. And I've never watched it personally, but they reached out to me, and it was during a time where I kept hearing that my story was inspirational and it
Mhm.
was motivating people, even though motivation's fickle and it'll go away.
Mhm.
But I was like, dude, if it helps somebody, then I'm gonna totally do that. So I was just accepting everything. Like my jaw was
Okay.
wired shut. I didn't have a piece of my brain or my skull rather. I still had a trach, actually. I legitimately
Mhm.
still had a trach, and I was still taking these interviews. Looking back to what the hell was I thinking? I could
Mhm.
have just relaxed.
Well, when the documentary comes out, whoever puts it out, I'm sure you'll have it up on your website as well. So what lingering? I mean, people are obviously see your antibiotic IV. They can see your trach scar. They can see your physical scars. You kind of showed us your skull. What are some things that you're dealing with? Like, what's a kind of a synopsis of your lingering issues now that we're coming up on what, 3.5 months, 4.5 months
Yeah,
since
no,
since the
3.
attack?
Yeah, 3 months. It happened on August 3rd. So August,
Mhm.
September. Well, no, yeah, October. Yeah, more than that. Um, the lingering effects is something really small of what I was told was going to be really big. I don't know if I said
Mhm.
that correctly, but I was told I was going to have complete right face paralysis because these went 3 centimeter deep and literally destroyed my nerves. So that's actually why I can do kind of like this. And this one shows
Not
like
so
I
much.
did like a massive dose of Botox. My
Mhm.
wife was like, "How about we get Botox on that side?" I'm like, "How about we don't and just leave it?"
You just deal with the way how handsome I am
Yeah,
now.
deal with the way. Like if I'm gonna be half faced, literally half faced, then the thing is that I was told that I wasn't gonna be able to do this or
Mhm.
smile. So before I was like
Well,
this.
yeah, you have pretty good facial manipulation. Like you can
Yeah, yeah,
affect a lot of the muscles in your face, which is impressive. But what? So you have
right.
the infection.
So
Uh,
the infection. So I guess the deficits. I've seen a lot of people have deficits after a stroke, right? A
mhm.
lot. And stroke for people that don't know, ultimately it comes for a maybe willful or complete ignorance of a high blood pressure issue. High levels of stress, just like your body is like, yo, forget this. I'm shutting down. The brain does can't take the pressure anymore. And then they have that stroke. There's multiple types of strokes, but for the most part, that's a very general way to explain a stroke, right?
Mhm.
So for those people, not saying that it's an absolute fix, right? But you'll notice that some deficits will come back. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And there's quite a few things that I learned during this process, but I kind of just marked it down to 12. I wrote them down. There's continuous things that I've learned, but I'm like, let me write this book. So let me just get 12 things and
Mhm.
let me try to build something here that may potentially help somebody that needs to hear a new perspective on
Okay.
things.
So did you say you're writing a book, or is that a metaphor? Are you actually writing a book?
Yeah, dude. Let me
Okay.
I don't know where it is, but it's handwritten. I
Well, I'll
have
tell
like
you
a
what.
hundred and
That's
something
kind of
pages.
a kind of a perfect segue into the part two of the question, or question number two, that I had for you. Um, I mean, you can deny it all you want, but your story is inspirational and is um, quite unusual. The way that you reacted and the way even you reacted in the moment, and some of the things that you were, considering, more concerned with other people's personal damage, keeping your presence of mind. I think what's inspirational about that is because it's how people hope that they act if they were ever in a situation like yours, but rarely is
Me
it how they
included.
act. Yeah, exactly right. Especially because of your training, it's like that's not only do you you want to do that, but you've put a great amount of time and effort to make sure that you were ready for that moment when it came. What do you attribute that presence of mind and um, that mentality and the absolute certainty that you were going to overcome, that you were going to be all right, that you needed to focus on the task in hand and you needed to move out? What do you attribute that to? Because that's obviously not something that you, well, not obvious. I shouldn't say obvious. It's unlikely that had you not been through the things in your life that you had been through before, you would have been prepared for that moment. Perhaps maybe you could have.
Right.
I mean, if it's a miracle, it defies all, by definition, it defies all logic and reason. But in your case, do you think that is what happened, or do you think you had uh, accrued a certain amount of experience and belief in yourself that when it came time for this, that you were ready to handle it the way you did?
Yeah, I guess that goes back to the intricacies of miracles. Once again, like
Hmm.
I spoke about this before, and where we think of the parting of the seas, and we think of uh, the the um, the need of looking at an iron snake in order to make your snakes go away,
Hmm.
Moses, and just continue. We kind of think of those miracles, the Old Testament miracles, or maybe
Hmm.
even obviously when Jesus was on the ground,
But
he did
major,
incredible
major
major
acts.
things, right? Yeah, and obviously, I think they still occur, but they're way more intricate. They're way more beautiful. Just the way that they work. Just because obviously Jesus is not in front of me doing the miracle, but he is God, so he
Hmm.
can work exactly how he wants to. So, so I guess that was kind of the reason that I was trying to figure out how it was all done, because a buddy of mine was at the end. He visited me at the hospital. He was like, "Dude, this couldn't have happened to a better person." And you can take it like, "Why did it happen to you?" But the way that he
Hmm.
meant it was, this this could have easily happened to one of those kids that helped me out and assisted me, because they jump off that dock. They swim in that area. That could have happened to anybody else. And maybe perhaps this needed to get taken care of a long time ago, but it happened to the not to put myself on a pedestal, or to think that I'm the reason and the only reason, and not anybody else could do the same thing with a certain level of mentality. But I keep getting told this. It was like, no, dude, if that was me, I would have died. I would have died. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
well, maybe if I coach you a little bit, bro, you can survive
Hmm.
anything. So come on, join me, dude. I'm gonna coach you to defeat all sorts of alligators. Just because it's one of those things that I realized that everybody has an alligator story. Just mine is kind of sexy with scales and teeth, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's physically or psychologically, everyone has an alligator story.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I guess I think I answered your question twofold. I've always had an unsurmountable amount of faith, and it wasn't until approximately about 7 months ago, and where I felt that my faith was depleting. It was. I also remember when I was like, I must have been like 5 years old. I was born. I'm Colombian, so I was raised going to a Catholic church, and then we were Jehovah's Witness for a while, and then we went back to a non-denominational Christian church, which I think we stuck in. This one, it kind of made the most sense for my parents, my
Hmm.
mom, anyways. And it was almost like as a child, I didn't quite need all the details, right? It's like it's exactly how Jesus says. It's like, I want you to have faith like a child, and that's exactly what I had. I had a faith like a child, so there was really no need for me to need and seek anything that required my faith to increase. There's no need. I felt it. I needed it. I had it. Whatever. But
Hmm.
I felt it when I was a young kid. I was like, and I looked at adults, and I'm like, wait, I don't get, why is it that they don't believe, or how is it that they're separating? It's like it's such a warm, wonderful feeling. It's like, why are they getting away? And
Hmm.
quickly, as I realized as I'm growing up, is because religion and humans. You know,
Hmm.
religion and humans kind of mess up everything, even if it's, and a lot of people tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like religion did this, so God did this, and blah blah blah. It's like chill out with all that. Wait a second. Okay. Humans suck.
Hmm.
Yeah, we all do. We're all sinful creatures. There's a lot of stories in the Bible about those people.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of stories that we know of those people, to include ourselves. So I late last year, I was attending church, and I just didn't make sense to me. I I
Hmm.
I, I hate that I say this, but I literally felt like it was dumb. It was dumb. It was dumb. And it was me being lazy. I was really focused on anything and everything that I was doing by myself, taking care of my physical and mental health. Those are the two things that I thought needed to drive me and the reason that I'm on this material world. And sure, yeah, they kind of get me ahead in this material world, but we're essentially forgetting the spiritual strength. Spiritual strength is the one that kind of gets you above this
Hmm.
natural world, right? From the finite to the infinite. So it's up to you to figure out which one's more important. So, or put them in the correct hierarchy, which at the time I'm like, well, I've kind of denied this. And really, kind of like how this came up was I was looking at people with unwavering faith that were adults. And they were like my mother and my father in law, which is like my, my spiritual father than anything. He's just I love that man. I'm so
Hmm.
blessed to have married his daughter. Yeah, just awesome. Anyways, so these people aren't dumb, they're not stupid. They're
Hmm.
not going to just go, and they're also not going to go to a place just because of a sense of community or a sense of whatever. They had the logos, they had Christ in their heart. They legitimately had
Hmm.
him in their heart. So going to church for them was kind of like a gym session for you and I. It's like we deal with like the gray world, maybe sometimes really dark. It's like, hey, you need a little bit motivation. You need your vessel to be filled with that faith. But it's up to you to kind of have. Once again, this is literally scripture. I'm not going to quote it at the time because I'm not that good at reading scripture just yet. To where I can recall every single quotation by
Hmm.
Matthew, John, Job, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, or whatever. Um, but in a sense, it's very easy to understand the message once you kind of open your heart into God's heart and truth. And once you kind of get into that zone, once you open up your heart, and for me, it didn't happen very easily. It took a lot of research, like probably way too much research, and where I had to figure out, well, all right, so Jesus is the story of Jesus was is a lot of things, but it's not boring, right?
Hmm.
It's a lot of things. So I had to figure out if the story of Jesus was one of history, meaning at his time, what else was going on, right? And
Hmm.
is it just his followers that say that exist, or is it entire civilization said that he exists? So everybody says that he existed. So he existed as a man, right? There was a man
Hmm.
on the earth. He lived for 30 or so years. Then he got killed. One of the worst ways that somebody can die, in front of his mother, in front of his friends, where that denied him. He was also whipped beforehand. He was also hung. The worst way that you could die. And
Hmm.
then also he died for not doing anything wrong, right? For saying who he was. Right? He was God, Messiah. But he was, obviously it's all in scripture, and how uh, in a world of truths, you want to hear everything that's convenient to you. And if it doesn't line up with you, just kind of ignore that truth and make it your truth.
Hmm.
So that is kind of like the story that I understood it from being historically accurate, and then it was um, theologically accurate. It was a myth and them together, and then geological, like when you go back to speak to people that have really spent time in the areas of where he was buried. And then also we're talking about the tunic, the thing that they found of him and how incredible it was that we can kind of I don't want to put too much emphasis on that because I don't think the science is completely out on that one, but it doesn't matter. There's entirely too much information to line up to this one thing. Too much for me. Like, all right, I got it. It was silly for me to lose faith for that amount of time. It's exactly what I needed was for me. And maybe it's a lot more for some. And that's okay. Because literally Jesus says that, if you actually want to find, you need to actually put forth the effort. Seek and you should find. So that's he kind of wants you to do that. He wants you to go on your own journey, figure it out, read scripture, talk to the right people, figure out why other religions don't make sense, and but don't be lazy with that spiritual strength. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not lazy working out. We're not lazy doing what we needed to do. So you literally need to actually put forth the effort. Thing is that you sometimes put forth the effort and you realize that you're not that good of a person. So you kind of have to let your ego lower it a little bit. You have to kind of figure out that in a world of truth, um, there is laws, there's moral codes that are somehow ingrained in us. It's the reason we feel like when we do something, it's kind of like, it's like it's literally ingrained in us. And what we usually do is just kind of like, oh, I can do it. Just shut that part of you off, and where you could literally completely shut it off, and then you could be completely okay lying, completely okay killing, completely okay doing blasphemous activities. You can also completely do name it, and if you do it enough times and shut your immoral hints, you could do so. Because one of the beautiful things that I kind of realized was that you come to this realization of if there's evil, how can God do something like this? I kind of hear that a lot, right? It's like, well, in this world, there is bad, right? There's when and there's a source of light, there's also a source of darkness. And that darkness, literally, its only job is to completely darken and shade the waters, make it confusing, make it not so straightforward. And it pulls you from anything truth. And it does it with it doesn't do it in a fearful manner. You know what I mean? Because we're smart humans, but what we do is we hear of that slithering word of like, it's okay. It's only natural. You can do what you want to do. You are in power. You put focus on you. It's okay for you to do that. It's a lie, but yeah, it's a small lie or whatever. So that's kind of how it manifests into you feeling like the incorrect thing is right. Sometimes when you read and realize that it's not, it's you can take it two ways. You can come to that realization that you need to do the good thing, or ignore it and do your own thing. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about free will, because if he didn't give us free will, we would kind of just be a totalitarian government. We would just be robots. There would be nothing to differentiate us from robots. We would just be, I think, from a loving father standpoint, you want your kids to love you on their own merit, on their own realization, versus making people follow in love. Yeah, I think you
So
can
you
relate
have,
to this.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
have children.
Yeah. So you had this epiphany, is what I can best describe it as. Maybe not all at once, but about 7 months ago, or prior to the attack, at least. So you kind of
Yeah,
had
prior to that time.
a renewed faith in God, and that's what you attribute your readiness, your spiritual readiness, I guess I could call it that, as well as your
Yeah.
physical readiness.
Yeah.
At the moment of the attack. Is that a good way to summarize that?
Yeah, man. The only thing that I would add is that us Christian folk call it born again.
Mm,
And that's kind of a interesting way of putting it, but it's exactly like that.
mm,
You come to the realization, you come with a pretty open heart about who the creator is and what he did here on earth for me.
mm,
And everything else is just, it gets pretty easy.
mm,
I hate to put it that way, but it's like, ah, okay. Like,
mm.
yeah, but that it's not like a realization. It's not like you need to stop putting forth the effort. And I think that's what a lot of Christians kind of get messed up in, where like it's just one of those things. Since we're like, we live in a dark world, dude.
Mhm.
We're always fed with this darkness, and we're human. We are not
Mm.
perfect by any means of the world. It even says it in scripture that like essentially our hearts are darkened and they're stiff and they're hardened. So as we need to continue in that pursuit, I guess you could say, in order to continue seeking for that truth and go and implementing it in your life almost every day.
Oh, yeah, that's
Maybe I'll be right there.
yeah. We'll wrap. I'm wrapping it up now. So
Sorry,
that's
dude. I'm so sorry.
no, that's perfectly fine. Like I think that's actually a perfect note to end on. Is that your work is never done, and you've been given a second lease on life, and you really do have. It's an incredible story, JC, and I wish you the best of luck in spreading the message that you kind of shared with us a little bit here today, as I know that it can do good things from people, and there's truth in what you're saying. Um, and I hope if people watch that, they see the truth that you've spoken, and more importantly than the spoken, have lived out through a pretty
Yeah.
adverse situation. So thank you again for being on the show. Again, Defeat X is JC's company in Tampa. If you're in the area and you feel like getting a little hot and sweaty for the greater good of yourself and others, give him a shout. I'll post in the bottom some links to his website as well as to some of the local news reports on it, so you guys can get a graphic of the video that we've been describing poorly in words throughout this video, and then let us know
To
when
add to
the
that,
documentary comes out.
yeah,
Say
dude, to
again.
add to that, if anybody does go out and check it out, obviously
Mhm.
I'm still healing and I'm still taking antibiotics. So I was supposed to take a bunch of appointments to figure out how I can assist individual people. And
Mhm.
then in the grander scheme of things, to build teams. And that's kind of how the company is going to be revolved later on. But I have a lot of physical walls of things that I literally can't do, which
Mhm.
is kind of awesome in a way how God kind of presented this to me, because it showed me a lot of my weaknesses and how I need to give that to somebody that can turn that around and be their strength. Like you and I, dude, we talk about being jack of all trades, but we know we're master of none. So how
Mhm.
about we just focus on one thing, and I can potentially master this one thing as long as I give it to the adequate people. Where before, dude, I was all go, 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 nonstop. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it myself. Blah 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 blah. And that was just kind of mark up the water. And I think I needed to have this large animal to take a piece of my skull
To
so I can
slow you
kind of slow
down,
down.
to show you how mortal you really are.
Yeah, totally, dude. Totally.
All right.
100%.
Well, JC, thanks again, brother, and it's good to see you. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good night.
See you, brother. Yeah, yeah. Thanks.